It is 5:30. This is a special meeting working session of the City Commission. It is March 25th, 2025. We are in the Veterans Conference Room at Mandan City Hall. Mr. Neubauer, can you please take the roll call, please?
Commissioners Rohr. Here. Schilberg. Here. Heinschon. Here. Braun. Here. Mayor Freilich.
Here. Now we will stand for the national anthem and for the pledge of allegiance. And Ryan, Greg will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I didn't sing old Canada. Okay. Commissioners, you have the agenda in front of you. Look for a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Braun, a second by Commissioner Schilberg. Further discussion of the agenda. Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Schilberg.
Yes.
Heinschon.
Yes.
Braun.
Yes.
Rohr.
Yes.
Mayor Freilich.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to new business, long-term financial planning.
All right, so I have a
Jared.
slide here. We got everybody's feedback and we kind of compiled some of that information and put together a little bit of a structure for this meeting, but probably less structured than our last meeting. And I didn't know what to call our follow-up presentation, so I went with capital improvement planning phase 2 optimization. I thought that was appropriate.
You got an acronym for it?
Yeah, I'll put that CIP P20 in all of the commission documents. Yep. So I did keep this slide on here. Capital improvement plans, 2 parallel efforts. A2S had the utility focused projects and more had the transportation focused projects. There's overlap represented in both documents, coordinated data. Everybody had an opportunity over the last month to familiarize themselves with these documents and form some opinions and understanding about where the city might be headed in the next 5 years. Last meeting, received an update, did merit criteria evaluation, considered structure review. Between meetings, we had reviewed draft CIP documents and commissioners provided feedback on infrastructure goals. Today's meeting, we're going to be talking about individual projects, maybe not necessarily every project, but we're able to talk about it. Take notes on every project if you want to, and then verify our revised prioritization and merit criteria. And then I guess I did want to point out that we did one additional task in between these meetings. The staff did a review of the grades of the individual projects. At the previous meeting, the grading of the projects was done just by me. As a staff made up of Public Works, Emergency Services, Business Development, and Planning and Engineering, we went through and regraded all the projects on the 12 merit criteria, and those are now represented here. Commissioners provided feedback in multiple formats. Some preferred a more narrative commentary, while others took advantage of the sheet that we had provided, and then others provided information somewhere in between that. What we did was we kind of took all of that information and interpreted it into something usable as far as mathematics goes. We did take kind of the math feedback and the narrative feedback, and we used that information to kind of calibrate. So I just took an example here. Some of the narrative feedback was for this commissioner was tree inventory is too high, division extension too high, cemetery stabilization too low. And when we entered the math for their feedback in, this ended up being false. So we did do some extra calibration. We made a minor adjustment to their weight of consistency with plans, and that changed this to be true. So then we felt better about properly representing that commissioner's feedback with our math. Interpreted this all in the same way and we've created a table. So these are five commissioners represented, and then we also included staff, the average staff comments as a sixth contributor to the prioritization. So it would be kind of as if we had 6 commissioners and staff was that 6th commissioner. This is all dynamic, so if we wanted to pull that out, we'd be able to, but that's how it's currently represented in this version of the document. This is kind of a showcasing the changes that have been made as a result of this effort. Before, we had a distribution of scores that looked like this. These were unweighted and kind of dependent on my interpretation of the projects. Since then, we have full staff input, or majority of staff input and commissioner input, and that resulted in a new distribution of scores that looks like this, the light blue versus the dark blue. And then just like before, we went through a natural breaks classification method to find logical breaks that would split it into high, medium, and low priority projects. And this is the information that we're going to give back to our consultants. And that would be represented on the final drafts of the CIP document. That is really just kind of an overview of what we have done since the last meeting. Riley did put together a tool that we can kind of focus discussions around individual projects. And if you wanted to, we do know maybe some sticking points where commissioners weren't lock and step with each other, and we could maybe have larger discussions around those specific projects, but going to be less structured, and just kind of wanted to have free-form conversation around people's understanding of the process and people's understanding of the projects and feelings and all of that. So I will let Riley take the helm here.
So commissioners, what you'll see on the screen here is the cut sheets from Moore and A2S on the right. So we can kind of scroll through and check projects. If anybody has any specific questions or comments on a project. And then on the left here, we have something that allows us to kind of scroll through projects rated. So you'll see the unweighted score and then the weighted score. So that unweighted score is what staff scored the project as, and then that weighted score is with that feedback that was provided by the commission and by staff. So this comment section here is comments that commission gave us. This information is if we felt we need to clarify questions. And then this notes is where we can take notes today. So the first comment here on 27th and 8th Avenue, there was some conflict here. One commissioner said that this project should be higher, and one commissioner said this project should be lower.
So I guess maybe we'll pause right there. What were you guys' thoughts on the input? Did you guys feel comfortable with the way that you provided input? For the most part? Is there something that we might have missed in this process based on the way that we were trying to get input? Or do you feel like this is a good enough way to go about this?
I think it's a little bit on the layman's side, you know, from our perspective, we're more providing input from the layman's side. And we can kind of go on new people do a lot of the expertise things. So, you know, we have to look about our input according to our experience and knowledge thereof.
Yeah.
I really didn't use, I used your ranking, your initial ranking as guiding light, so to speak. But personally, you know, I did not use the 10, what do you call these, merits or whatever.
Yep.
I didn't even look at those, to be honest with you.
That's fair.
Because these two articles that Moore and 82S gave us, these were my Bibles when I was going through here.
Yep.
So I got the information that I wanted and came up with that handwritten nightmare that I gave you. But these two documents, if we didn't have these to support this, I'd have been lost.
Yeah.
Actually.
I recall
Thank you.
all the years I've been around that we've had documents from engineering firms that were that comprehensive, so I appreciate the information.
Okay, with that said, I mean, we do have this kind of input or organized by project priority. The projects that kind of bubbled up to the top we have first, and they're going to get lower as we go through. What do you guys think about going through a few of these high priority projects and just discussing them at large? Yeah. Okay.
Or if there's specific projects we must take a look at, we can pull that up too.
Yep. 8th and 27th, this is the urbanization of 27th Street, 9th Avenue Northwest, just north of the high school. This would be tied a little bit to that high school trail project, but they are represented separately here. This would be a 2027 project, and that 2027 date is coming from its position on the state transportation improvement program related to a $4 million grant that was made available to us.
One thing we should call here too is like the project category. So this is a category that we came up with that has 4 different things in it. It's the project must be completed, which means we're kind of locked in, we've signed agreements. The project has significant funds spent, that means we've made a big investment in engineering costs. Project has preliminary funds spent, that means we're typically probably around 30% plans. And then project has no worker funds, maybe the project has some work behind it, but there's a significant investment there. So just calling that out too, that's also on here, so there's some more information provided.
So the high, medium, low isn't necessarily 26, 27, 28. There's going to be different years in each category.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And we figured that would be really dependent on the funding side of things. So it wouldn't be very appropriate to slot them into years quite yet. But you guys would have the ability to see if it is generally a high priority project. And then it was just the approach we took, I guess. Okay.
What year did the protest start?
I don't know that off the top of my head. The protest on this project previously.
We're in
22, maybe when the school first.
Oh, for this.
So the numbers over here are the Collins Avenue,
Oh, yeah, we should pull up the cut sheet. You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
and you want to work down through the highest.
The highest priority ones.
This rate's number 1.
This bubbled up to be number 1.
This the specials calculated on that. Do you have that? Or am I getting way out from the?
I think when we originally proposed the assessment district, right, if you lived along 8th and your driveway went out to the half a street, I think you were at the top end, it was like $17,000. And that was for direct access onto 8th. I don't recall what it was as you got farther to the east or farther to the west.
Was it a large neighborhood that was assessed? All of Terraville?
All of Terra Valley, because 8th is considered a collector arterial road. So in our philosophy on those are that Collins Avenue the district went halfway over to Sunset and halfway over to Mandan Avenue. 6th Avenue and Sunset went halfway over to Collins Avenue and halfway to Lowstrader. Mandan Avenue went halfway to Collins, and the rest of the river as we split the north and south routes. This one, I think everything north of the interstate, like halfway to those breakpoints were, because again, we don't want to assess you for Collins and 6th Avenue, Sunset and Mandan. So that's how we logically split those districts up.
So we're looking at the same numbers, if not a little more.
No. So
It's
that's
going to be less.
that previous district was based on $1 million in federal funds, offsetting a $5 million project. This would be pretty much the reverse, $4 million of federal funds offsetting a $5 million project.
Okay.
The reason that it is still $5 million is because the scope of the project is less now, because that 24th to Old Red Trail piece was originally in that project scope, but that's done.
Okay. So the chances of it getting petitioned out this time, or
Lower, probably.
Lower, I think, depends on how we draw the district. The argument at the time it was protested out was the school should be paying the Lions share much more than anybody else because the school's up there. Our argument against that, not that the school's more than willing to pay a share, but that the road up there was half a road for the last, since it was originally put in. Therefore, just because the school moved up there doesn't mean we wouldn't have had an improvement project there.
and this is all gonna be curb, gutter, sidewalk, and stormwater management. Because we currently have a problem going to the north. Right?
Yep.
And in the interim, as this road decays, falls apart, what are we doing?
We have been doing a blend and stabilize, blend in place and stabilize, mine and blend stabilize project. We did that on the segment between 27th and 24th. It is helpful. It's been helpful. It's in better condition than it was. It's in better, 8th is in better condition than 27th is, and those are the two options. It keeps dust down. It's not ideal, but it's cheap, and it accomplishes what we need it to accomplish for the next couple of years.
Have we ever looked at double chip seals for situations like that? I think it's Minnesota's been a little more aggressive doing that for short-term stretches like that.
Yeah, we could look at that. Sometimes I get a little bit worried with chip seals just because we should do cost analysis, because you're not going to get rid of the, if you don't do the mine and blend, you're not going to get rid of the kind of undulation of the potholes and stuff like that. But we could definitely look at that. That might be a better option to see.
I know Burley County did that by this for that 2-year period before. It held up fairly well. No, just knowing that it was going to be 2 years.
Right. Yeah. And I think at large, that's probably a good strategy for this particular road. I think that it's probably maybe even too far gone for that. But I might be wrong. We should look at it. Yeah.
Jared, the current width of 27th east of 8th.
East of 8th, I don't know off the top of my head. It's probably wider than 20, which is what 8th is. 26 sounds right.
And it's gonna go to what?
It would go to the current segment of 8th. Is it like 38-foot road?
I think so.
38, probably.
So we tell them that we have moved it up to the top of the list, but it's scheduled for 27, and we've got additional funding, and your specials will be as high as they will,
Yeah, should.
but you're just gonna have to be patient.
Gonna be patient because of the federal money that we don't have it sitting in an account. It hasn't been committed and obligated and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Hope it will be. There's no guarantee.
You go next project.
So I was wondering, is there any further discussion you want us to have on this project, or?
It's like a logical break. Yeah. Number 2 was the Sunset Drive interchange. This is a project that we're locked in. You can see category up there. Project must be completed. We've kind of locked ourselves into this project. We have the cut sheet.
Yeah.
We have a share in this. I think it was $1.3 million of the $40 million project. And most of that would be associated with the reconstruction of Sunset Drive and Red Trail intersection and Boundary Road and Sunset Drive. Yeah, this one probably not as interesting. I know that one of the comments that got brought up was, what would the special assessment district for this be like? And this would probably be similar to 8th or Mandan Avenue, where it goes halfway to the next road of this significance and would generally scale down as you get further away from the improvement, right? Or
Be significantly large district
Yep.
because there's a large benefiting area.
Yeah.
So
you could probably make an argument that it's citywide, this would be a citywide type assessment, just because there's not very many opportunities to get through south of the interstate or north of the interstate. So a lot of beneficiaries.
And this is scheduled for 26, 27.
This is scheduled, I think it's scheduled for 26 now. The DOT was originally targeting 27, but I've heard 26 in the most recent.
It's just a construct median cost of 26, so that you can get to the other side. 27 start the bridge.
It's our obligation. Sunset Road Trail.
The intersection itself, I think, is going to be in year one. Yep. The big intersection.
So the strip will be done in late 26 or early 27, and then this one's gonna start part of it in 26, 27, so we'll have both ends of the town kind of in limbo.
There will be overlap.
How long would it take to chip seal 1806 there on that one project? Is that like a 2-week deal, or so it's not gonna be all involved?
Which 1806?
1806, yeah, it goes from Third Avenue or Third Street Southeast is the city's obligation.
that's a
Oh,
mill and overlay.
it's a mill and overlay
Just
project.
It's really quick.
2 weeks type thing.
Yep, it would go very, very quickly. Yep.
Thank you.
The longest part of that would be there's 88 ramp improvements. So the 88 ramp improvements would take 2 weeks, and then the mill and overlay would take 2 days.
And the old red trail, that's looking more like 29, 28.
Yes, that'd be in 29. And that is just a part of getting 8th and 27th higher in the prior or earlier into the pecking order. Should we go next one? Downtown SID 236. So I guess this is maybe better discussed as a group of projects. When we were talking about these kind of multi-phase projects, we graded them all the same, and they ended up being prioritized the same. So this would be the First Street reconstruction that we are going through the protest period in right now, as well as the phase 2 of that project, which would continue the improvements east 2 blocks, and then the phase 3 of that project would continue that effort east another 2 blocks all the way to First. Use the end of that project.
All these projects don't have a lot of outside funding. Is that correct?
They have no outside funding.
Funding, yeah.
But what we did was we represented successful grants to the tune of what we were successful with this first phase. So it would be really contingent on receiving that $2.3 million, that 65% grant for the road portion of the project.
It'd be a tough burden just to throw it on the people who live in that area. So it's gonna have to be because the old part of town and the amount of costs and their income level and things of that nature be tough.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's how we have it represented. Been acquired.
For the previous phase,
Probably not.
for phases 2 and 3. Phase 1.
Correct. Phase 1, we do have authorization for those funds. We'll probably the same discussions that we're having, the same complications with these projects really. Pedestrian improvement to bulb outs and related to planters, lighting, so it's probably the basis on this one. This group, we go through these. Yeah, there's phase 2. It's 3. The next project is the I-94 Grant Marsh Bridge reconstruct. This is something that we are also locked into. I think that the DOT has narrowed down 17 alternatives to 3 alternatives or something like that. We're in that stage of the project right now. I think it's slated for reconstruct. Okay, 2030 is what we have it kind of earmarked for. I think this would be, so we don't have the exact scope because they haven't selected an alternative, but this would be a full reconstruct of the bridge deck and the structures in the water. So
The piers?
I think so. Is it it's pier reconstruction too, right?
Yeah, everything's good.
Yep.
So
It needs to be about 3 times the width, I think.
right, so this is slated to start in 30,
That is what we have as a tentative date.
so are they keeping the lane and then what are they doing?
What I've seen before is they'll probably demolish half the bridge and then build the other one in its area, its rooms, and then open that part and then demolish the rest of it. To build it.
You said it needs to be twice as big?
I think they're calling for 3 lanes each direction, shoulders on each side. So the current 48-foot width would end up being around 120.
This would also include improvements west of the bridge to, I know they want to try and reduce like exits on the left and stuff like that and reduce, maybe, I know that they've looked at it, reduce footprints of the interstate, but I don't know if they'll that survive the alternatives. No.
Okay, this is. We're participating whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And what is our proposed?
I think we had it slated for, I think we used 2% as a stand-in dollar amount, though we don't have that information available to us right now.
Jared, was that because would they be reconstructing from like Culver's going to the east? And that's why that's a local part of that road. So
Yeah.
explain why we have a local piece
Yeah,
in the interstate system, because
So
it's
the interstate.
not just the bridge deck,
Yeah.
it's going
Yeah,
east and west.
the interstate system, we participate 0% in, but for some of the, as you get down into some of the exits and off ramps and all that fun stuff, we do have increasing participation. So we might have 10% participation in a highway and 20% participation in an eligible local road. So this is kind of just a weighted average, an estimated weighted average of our total participation. So it'd be bits and pieces of 10% participation and 20% participation, but such a minor amount relative to the overall project that it's going to be 2%.
It's still significant dollars.
Still significant to us. Yeah, absolutely.
Chips away our bucket of.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So is that gonna cause any of the shady lane stuff that we've already done? Is that gonna tear up any of that? I'm specifically looking at that drainage issue there, right in front of culverts.
We are going to address that with the project this year. But I would guess no, when we talked to Stantec about operations at that intersection, it didn't seem like they had taken a very close look or too close of a look at operations there. So I'm guessing the scope of their work at that intersection would probably be within the existing boundaries of the road because they felt like it was operationally okay. That would be my expectation. Next one.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, that I'll be leaving here shortly. I've got to recuperate.
That works. Is there anything that you want to cover before we go as far as?
I mean, can I get with you specifically?
Yeah.
And I'll take time out and meet and kind of pick up the loose end from what I'm missing here.
Yeah.
Do that.
Is there a specific project you want to go over quickly? You're still here? Is there anyone that just comes to mind?
No, well, you know, you can bring one up here, but somebody's got some discussion on some of these things. And I read it on my sheets and, huh? I'll go here up closer. I got some medication I gotta take and. Stay away from the strawberries and peanuts.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Next project we had was the sanitary sewer master lift station and force main replacement. This project would be a new construction master lift station to the southeast of the current location. And would include reconstructing the twin 16-inch ACP or asbestos concrete, asbestos cement pipes that go from the current master lift station to the wastewater treatment plant. One complication we had with creating this project is that the master lift station and the pipe immediately following the master lift station are probably more volatile than the rest of the run. So there was just a little bit of, it could be two projects. There's probably a smaller project here that is of more urgency and a larger project that is of less urgency, but we have them grouped together as far as this document goes.
Can you describe what you were talking about?
The smaller project,
Well,
yeah.
you said there's more urgency. Why?
We've been getting more and more breaks. If Shane was here, he'd probably be able to articulate it better, but there have been 2 breaks in the last couple of months on that stretch of the ACP right around 3rd Street. So this is like a 2.5 mile run of pipe, and that first 1,000 feet has been experiencing accelerated breaks.
So what happens when it breaks?
We shut it down and repair it while we have it shut down. There is some storage available in the large diameter pipes on the upstream side of the lift station. So we do have a little bit of time. We can stop pumping and make repairs, but we're currently putting together an emergency response plan. Because we want to have a better grip on what appropriate response might be for a break that can't be repaired in a few short hours.
So this is the wastewater.
This is a wastewater.
And, okay, so what happens when it breaks?
The street.
Yep.
So would that flow into the dead heart?
Thank you.
It could.
That's part of the emergency response plan too, to try and address some of that, just to make sure it's mitigated.
And maybe for more context, this lift station handles 70% of the city's wastewater, so it's a lot.
So what's the age of this? You said it's
Asbestos, yeah. Asbestos. So what would that be? 60s, 70s? Oh, yeah, 1960s. And the pumps are 1980s vintage.
So this thing actually flows open air? Are we subject to any EPA fines on a daily basis for that?
We're exploring that with the emergency response plan stuff. We're trying to figure out what the implications would be if we had to plug a downstream culvert and dump into the dead heart. You know, we're trying to figure out what those implications would be. And if we could avoid that, what does that look like?
What's the cost of this one?
The total overall cost is 20 some million, we got 31 million here. I know that our application is based off of like a $26 million, but this might include some soft costs as well.
Who do we apply for that money to?
This is a BRIC grant. So FEMA BRIC grant, building resilient infrastructure. Can't remember.
So with some of the piping, will be able to be realigned, or are we digging
Our application has us digging. We've talked about that. I think exploring some lining would be smart. And the way it's represented right now is open cut replacement, full replacement, but like a structural liner. I know that Lath actually might be able to talk about that a little bit more. I think that, has that been explored, the structural liner? And it's just, you don't save enough money for it to be feasible.
The way that it's the second. Yeah. Apex study did.
If it was a smaller scope project, if it was 1,000 feet, would that be an okay lining project or not really? Possibly, okay. I didn't know if it was the sheer length of it that made it.
And the deterioration of the line is just due to age, not.
Age, and then with ACP, like brakes, you get brakes. It's almost like a snowball effect because it's really sensitive to disturbed ground. It's brittle, and so once you have one brake, you can kind of expect to chase brakes.
So what do you replace it with?
PVC.
What size?
It's dual 16-inch. I don't remember what the proposed size is. I think it maybe be a single 20-inch or something like that.
And that size.
It'd be two. It is two. Okay. Is it 20 inches?
20s?
I have to look at.
Okay.
that.
Is that size?
But right now there are two, well, so there is one break, they can still pump.
Okay.
For the other line, they're not gonna shut the whole force main down, so there's still some capacity to pump to the plant.
So these, okay, so if you put, what's the lifespan of PVC? We don't know.
I mean, you probably safely assume 50 or 30, 50.
So is this being sized for the growth of the city if this is the main?
I don't wanna speak for Apex, but I would imagine something.
Yeah, there'd be a planning period that they would have defined in their documents. I'd imagine that'd be 20 years or something like that. I feel like that's a pretty typical. But yeah, maybe it'd be appropriate to extend that out further. But yeah, I don't know what it is off the top of my head. It also should be mentioned that the two 16-inch brittle ACP lines are 3 inches apart from each other. I don't know the way that Brad describes it. They are very, very close to each other. So the reason that we need an emergency response plan, I think, is because it's so brittle. You could easily imagine a break on one line would cause a break on the other. That is the basis of our application for the brick grant, is that
And this is scheduled for when?
we have it in our 2025 budget, but this is kind of dependent on the award of the brick grant. I know that Shane has been trying to pull out that smaller scope project, the more urgent project, to potentially get done without grant funding.
So you want an emergency response, but I'll go back to Mr. Neubauer's comment. Shit in the street is. So from a health and safety category, did this rank where should this,
Good question.
what are the diseases that come from shit in the streets?
E. coli.
All sorts of testing stuff.
Dysentery?
It was an 8 for public health and safety.
It was an 8. I bet you. You guys all familiar with the consequences of this, or what this project was?
This would be, this is where it would probably be appropriate to split this into a public health and safety project of a 10 and a 6. If because the overall project, that would be kind of the thought process behind it. Is that it is probably the scope between the two segments of the project are enough that it warrants splitting this into 2 projects for consideration.
2 projects, meaning one that is not dependent upon the brick grant.
Correct.
So when we have had breaks before. We had them a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Down in the Meadow Park area. We went in there with our back trucks, cleaned everything up, did as much as we could. Ground was still frozen. It's already, but like I said, so we do deal with this. It's not a good thing to deal with, and obviously if you're next to that, it's not pleasant, but like I said, that's why we have 2 back trucks and go in there and clean it up as quickly as we possibly can.
What's the depth of these pipes?
I don't know off the top of my head. It probably varies. But I'd imagine it's 7.5 feet deep, 8 feet deep. Typically, if you have a pressurized pipe, you're keeping it as shallow as you possibly can without letting it freeze.
How does it come to the surface?
Pipe breaks and it may, sometimes it'll back up and push the manhole cover up, or it just breaks and migrates up. Is that fair for folks who do that? I've seen it, but
What are your thoughts on the urgency of this?
I would agree with Jarrett. There are 2 parts of it. I think there's what Shane O'Keefe is looking at right now is being, okay, we really need to get at this regardless of the grant. So there's that piece. And then we continue on with the brick grant application and look at the rest of it. So
I just want to note that this is one of the projects that has a good difference between the unweighted score of the project and the weighted score, showing that the commission really valued public health and safety as one of the higher weighted merit criteria. Just pointing that out.
Yes, an 8-point jump is probably among the highest jumps that a project would have.
So it's in the high priority.
This is the 7th project on the list.
I guess when I was doing it, I didn't realize it had such dire consequences, or didn't know you were having the issues, so.
Right.
I just figured it was aging infrastructure that needed to be replaced sometime in the next 5 to 10 years.
And 4 months ago, that probably wasn't an up-to-date take on that because we've experienced all these breaks in the last few months.
So the neighborhoods that we're doing, Monty Drive, and if we get going on First Street Phase 1, those pipes are being replaced also. And I assume it's the same material, right?
I think cast iron, I think the downtown streets are cast iron, and then the sanitary is clay. These are asbestos cement because they're pressurized.
Okay, but we are replacing sanitary
Yes,
pipes.
so we have for the clay pipes, we have lining scoped for the clay pipes, and then in Monty Drive at the very least. And then for downtown, I think we do have full reconstruction of the pipes there because it is so minor. They're crossing. The majority of the pipes in the downtown area are in the alleys. So it's just crossing locations in First Street. But we are replacing them where we're digging up.
Okay. So in keeping with the discussion we had several months ago, where we're looking at doing a lot of this replacement below ground. And I think you mentioned that the goal would be to replace the pipes downstream with a larger diameter to handle the volume of growth in the future. Is that
As far as the
considered into this, or?
is in talking about the master lift station project, or talking about projects generally?
The projects that replace the wastewater stuff.
Yeah.
Down in the valley, we were talking about that. You mentioned to better handle the growth of the community up on top of the hill and maybe further west.
Yeah.
Where we'll be going to a larger diameter.
Yeah.
Sewer pipes down
We-
in Main Street.
Yeah, we have master. In our upsizing.
Okay.
Yeah.
For discussion on this, Shane did provide some information. He was estimating a $2 million smaller projects.
Okay. So, maybe a tenth of the scope of the project that's currently in the packet.
Sure, for some more clarification, is it both pipes that are experiencing issues?
That's a good question. I don't know that.
I think we're at
Both.
That was both of the locations,
It was both at different locations, okay.
because luckily it wasn't that same location.
Related to the size of the pipe, I know when I talked to Mike Burke, the apex, I had asked similar questions. Something to keep in mind too with sewage in particular, when we're pumping through it, a lot of that you can control your peak a lot better when you're pumping it based on your pump. I guess you don't need as big a pipe.
Right, there's a buffer, yeah, it gets buffered and then, yeah, spread out or whatever, yeah, if you know, think of it that way. So yeah, we can move on to the next project, I think. Mandan Street Rehab, phase 1 of Mandan proper. So once again, these multi-phase projects, we have them all represented the same, so they're all gonna be right in a row here. This is the reconstruction of the neighborhood just north of City Hall. Generally, projects would be east of 6th, south of Division, west of Collins, and north of 2nd. Riley's going to pull up a location map here to help with orientation. This is full reconstruct. This is it sanitary sewer replacement or is it lining? Lining of the clay sanitary sewer pipe, replacement of the cast iron water mains, full depth reconstruction of the streets, a lot of curb and gutter work, a lot of sidewalk work, tree trimming, the full 9 yards.
So this map is just phase 1. Phase 2 would descend over to Collins, and then phase 3 and 4 would be from essentially 4th Avenue down to 7th.
And these 4 projects are also what we had submitted the raise grant for. And the way that we have it represented in these documents, I would say it's probably without the award of the raise grant. So,
Jared?
Yep.
I would suspect that this area was developed at different times. So clay pipes closest to us are, I don't know how they were developed, if it went north or came south. At any rate, what's the length of time a clay pipe is good for?
it feels like they're good for a long time, actually, if they don't start breaking. Once they start breaking, then they can kind of spiral and they can continue breaking. But clay tile pipe actually lasts quite a bit of time. I don't know what year these would be, but these would probably be 70 years old and they're still functioning. I don't think Public Works has a whole lot of issues with them.
Tree roots is the only problem.
Tree roots, yeah. So clay tile pipe is pretty good, except it's very brittle. And so we would be putting a liner in, take advantage of the fairly good condition. I mean, we could look at full replacement too if we wanted to.
When they're in there, they find that the clay pipe hasn't degraded and the liner would be enough. Will they replace it with clay again, or do they use PVC?
We would tie in with PVC. We would put couplers at both ends of the clay tile pipe and bridge with PVC.
But PVC does not last as long as clay tile.
I think that they would last similar amount of time.
And that was for 20, 30 years.
30, I think that's probably being conservative with the estimate there. Because we have PVC that was installed in the 70s, I think. Is that 70s, 80s? That's in okay condition, yeah. And you know, that's 45 years old at this time, so.
What about the liner? Liner timeline?
Liner timeline would be similar to PVC, I would say. Is it a structural liner or not?
Yeah, you don't really have as much data on it because it's still,
It's a new
you
process.
said if it was installed in the 80s, and liner started later than that, you don't really have the end date yet, the data on it.
The line essentially replaces the PVC pipe within that.
Yeah. You lose a little bit of diameter, but you gain strength and you gain, yeah, smoothness. Stuff like that.
And you only line once.
You probably could align many times, but you keep this pipe would keep getting functionally
It's
smaller.
pretty, it's fairly.
Yeah,
Becomes like a half-inch
I think half inch sounds.
total. Yeah, on each side.
Feel good about these projects? Yeah. They're at about 35 million is what we have estimated for all 4 phases. So
I think the only 3 phases are represented in the 5-year state.
it's a big bite, but big need, big priority, I would say.
That's why we have the utility rate analysis study.
All right, should we move through?
So we have 5-year.
Yeah, we can skip on.
Already was good.
You want to talk
We
about
can
it?
start, yeah, we could talk about Monty, but with that project going,
Is Monty also sewer? Monty is sewer also and water.
yeah, cast in place. Next up, Memorial.
Timeline for Monty. When's the start date? Just.
Pre-cons next week.
Yeah,
No, we haven't awarded the project yet. That'll be on the commission first.
oh yeah, that's right.
Review bids, Strata Corporation, so they're doing the project right now. SID 235, they're doing that right now. And then they'll have this one as well. Underground is BEK construction.
What's that?
BEK construction.
Yep,
So they start next week and they're gonna start, I would think, towards Boundary Road.
They won't start next week. Once you're awarded, I would anticipate they probably won't start until May sometime.
But they have how long to get it done?
I would imagine that we wanted all the pipe in the ground this summer. That's what we want. That's what we expect. So we would expect pipe in the ground this summer with probably follow-up work next summer.
But pipe in the ground, surface redone.
Surface redone to a drivable surface, I would say for the
Gravel?
winter. No,
For the winter time.
we would want 1 lift of asphalt, probably a lift left to do. That's what I would expect. Memorial Highway Phase 2. This is the west half of the project from Main Street to about 32nd Avenue. This includes the construction of some stormwater infrastructure along the north side of 3rd Street. The first year of this project, we would expect the reconstruction of Main Street intersection and the installation of that storm pipe along 3rd Street with mainline paving occurring in the following year. So with mainline paving occurring this year on Memorial Highway, we would expect to have a gap year in mainline paving for the Memorial Highway project in 2026, if it goes according to plan. This would be a lot of the same improvements. It's a 5-lane urbanized intersection, generally lower than it is right now to promote drainage towards the roadway rather than wherever it goes now. This phase of the project is going to be more expensive than the east half. It has just generally more quantities included in it. But it'd be similar to what we're going to get this summer on the east half. I know a big complication with this project is going to be coordination with events around Mandan, and also keeping the businesses thrive, or try and make sure that the businesses are engaged and supported during the project, because it's going to be a long 3 years.
Yeah, in Sunset.
In Sunset as well.
All these projects are gonna. The road projects are. All the events in the city and how we move in, the Grant Marsh Bridge.
That's right. It's a good point. We can move on, yeah. New fire station. So this is one that we've kind of talked about, is whether it's appropriate or not to be put into this discussion, but ultimately, this is the type of decision that the commission is going to have to make. We kept it in for the exercise purpose of this project, but it probably won't end up in the final CIP. document, depending on where everybody lands, but this would be Fire Station 3 located up north of the Sunset Interchange. Mitch might be able to talk about it a little bit better than I can. Yeah.
And I think, yeah, you've all been through the presentation and seen that we don't have any response on this part. I feel that a lot of it's contingent on staffing. Any questions, I guess?
Do we have a location for it?
We believe it would fit on the site, shared with the water tower there on the site, right there. That hasn't gone through engineering, that's our measurements. That hasn't been through architect or engineering. We haven't given any funds. I believe it would fit there, yes.
How many acres you got up there?
Tower site's probably about 3.
Somebody brought it to the attention. This just might be a little overreaction on my part. But there's 2 dams that kind of flank the city. Lake China and Garrison. All our emergency services are in flood.
I did a study. Tribune got a hold of a study, and I don't know if it was Army Corps of Engineers, but if there was a massive failure of the Garrison Dam, I think the time span was roughly 2 hours for that water to hit Mandan, but it would backwash and be up to 3rd Street. You remember seeing that article, page 1 of section 2. And that's a huge amount of water. It's going to wipe out everything. So we need something on the hilltop.
So we talked about that, about possibly putting an additional or some sort of a EOC component built into the fire station. Again, those are all conversations that need to have to finalize that number and what we want to build.
Well, the guy over the Lieutenant Colonel Waller made the comment, because they do that tabletop exercise, that frame barracks would be gone.
Right.
So
Green barracks would be gone, Bismarck water treatment plant would be gone, our wastewater plant would be gone, our water treatment plant would be gone.
I'm just wondering where we pick up the pieces. So this probably isn't germane to this discussion, but I just thought, what the heck, let's really fortify that sector up on top of the hill. Get some federal money, and that becomes, because it's on the top of the hill, right? So we can reach out to Burley County. It's the highest point for Burley County also.
I think that's one reason that CENTCOM is located out of the airport.
So
Way.
I was just thinking maybe there's some money for
Possible.
a disaster location. That way we could move the police, we could move state agency, state emergency management up there.
CENTCOM's at DCN, but state radio's at Freight Barracks.
I would assume state radio as a backup.
CENTCOM.
CENTCOM.
Was CENTCOM?
They changed it? Oh, interesting.
There's fusion going on.
Yes.
It
Absolutely makes sense to be a CENTCOM.
Yeah, they were, I thought CENTCOMs were back. I don't think they have one in the city CENTCOM.
Jim, are we still looking for a temporary building on the west side of Sunset during the construction? Is that still?
Mitch and I went up to view a couple buildings up at NASC that they have. Not sure that we'd be able to fit a fire truck in there without significant modifications. Their garage doors being too skinny and too low. Is that
Correct.
Sure.
And they didn't have living quarters available. So we have to remodel living quarters to make sleeping arrangements and kitchen and showers. Stuff like habitat, so.
I think we're cognizant of on the Sunset interchange reconstruction that there needs, the emergency services needs are paramount to get. You can't have 300 cars backed up and there's no way to get fire trucks, police cars or ambulance through. So that's part of the discussion. DOT and federal highway and that all works.
It should be noted that this is a high priority project, and it had a one in utilization of outside funding, which was a very heavily weighed merit criteria. So if there was some outside, even a little bit of outside funding available for this would probably skyrocket. But it is very high already.
With the half-cent or 3/10 of a half-cent
Right.
sales tax, we've got a likely funding source for the construction of a building. It is the staffing. So,
Yeah, Mayor, to your point, even today, if NISC was a perfect fit for us, it's the staffing. It's in a pickle to cover the entire city. Well,
Three shifts.
First shift,
you need 15 fire staff,
15 more firefighters.
2 people. Right,
Yeah, what?
is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, but we were kind of figuring 2030 for the start initially, to start that new fire station. Or were you expecting done by?
To complete. Hopefully, if everything would come to fruition, our hiring, our trucks and our building would all be ready to go in year 2030.
Maybe like a 2-year construction, or
Yes.
yeah, with 1 year of engineering in front of that. So coming up.
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
So at 2028 for occupancy, is that unrealistic? Or is that where things need to start?
They need to start.
Go away.
Yeah, and that's what Finance Director Welch, brought up, that we need clarification on or amendment of the sales tax to keep this different person. That's, I'm sure you guys that's back with that group on that. Great.
So even with the half-cent sales tax and 3 cents of that half-cent going to police, fire, city hall, accessibility, buildings and vehicles, and if we can even include staffing in there, I don't think we still have enough money
Right.
fully fund that without increasing the number of units in the general fund budget for that, which plays into the 3% property tax cap, which has been explained to our legislators.
We keep moving. I think we'll go until maybe a weighted score of around 80, and then we'll be pretty much the end of the high priority projects, and then we can go and look at other ones. 6th Avenue underpass. This is the underpass underneath the railroad at 6th Avenue Southeast, just north of Family Fair, I guess now. This is a reconstruction of the hard road infrastructure there, but there's also a big stormwater component to this. We have a stormwater lift station adjacent to this that pumps the water out. During the winter, this can get icy and causes all sorts of issues. I think that somebody told me that Carrie can't use this road during the winter because her car can't get up the incline. So we have I think we have 10% participation in this because it's maybe we have it represented as 20% participation. This is either be 10 or 20% participation because it is a highway. But we are kind of locked into this one because this is a state-led project as well.
So this. Are there monies committed at the state and federal level for this? So
Program.
it is a go. So
Yeah.
we have categories of projects that are commitments.
Yep.
That really, whether we change our rating of them or not, really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because we're locked into some of those, and then there's the ones we call them negotiables and the non-negotiables. It seems like several of the high priority items are the non-negotiables because we're already in process with those.
Right.
It's really the negotiables that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are here.
And then
This is a 28 project.
that's where it's currently at in the tip, I believe. Yeah. So there's a chance that, I know that a lot of the state folks have said that there's a chance that there's going to be a ripple effect to projects getting moved back in order to meet the funding for Memorial Highway. So there's a chance that some of these projects might get pushed back a year, but or two, you know, by the time it's said and done. But right now it's representative 2028.
What's the limit of construction on that?
Yeah. And this is probably very rough. I know that there hasn't been a whole lot of scoping done on this project quite yet.
I know there's an engineering report yet.
There isn't, or is?
There is.
Is not. So there's not an engineer. The state doesn't have an engineer on this project yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Tree inventory,
Tree inventory.
everyone's favorite.
Most comments said that this should be lower, and I think that we kind of expected that. I think I even brought it up during last meeting. Tree inventory is kind of a low-cost project that would make some of Jason's applications for grants more competitive. It would also set us up to be planting our trees in a way that is more resistant to diseases around town. We don't want to concentrate all of our ash trees in one area, and we don't want to concentrate all of our maples in one area. So it would really be for those two purposes, as far as I'm aware. Maybe I missed something. Really kind of a planning document, something to set us up for future projects.
Tree equity is a concern, it's a growing concern locally and nationally, where we end up with maybe established neighborhoods having the benefit of tree canopy, disadvantaged neighborhoods maybe not having the benefit of tree canopy, new developments obviously having a massive disparity, falling far behind the level of trees that should be needed. There's also a large movement nationally viewing trees as infrastructure, essential urban infrastructure for quality of life and other tangible benefits that are very real. So
yeah,
We, instead of focusing on a starting point of 1 year, could we spread that out over 5?
as far as an inventory would probably have to be a one-time effort, but as far as like following that up with planting, we could spread that out.
Yeah, it's kind of like that safety deal and the lead pipe
Oh
thing.
yeah, just a programmed effort.
It's something we do every year.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
But Derek, you're saying that when we apply for grants right now, lack of a better term, one of the boxes, do you have a tree inventory? If we don't, then we
drop down.
We drop down in priorities of getting additional funding to help out with ash borer and Dutch elm and things like that. If we do the tree inventory, then we rank higher and our possibility of obtaining outside funding increases.
Yep, absolutely. And Jason had pretty frank conversations with the grant program managers, and they bluntly said that a tree inventory was one of the pieces that got Grand Forks awarded and not us. So even though we had similar applications.
So
Go ahead, Mayor.
all the project costs to get this tree inventory is $60,000.
Yep.
And this will open what dollar figure? You figure for grants? How much?
$1,000.
Yeah, I think is it two $10,000 applications every year?
But are there other grants if you have a tree inventory?
Yes.
Those are the two grants that require tree inventories to be successful grantees. The two state boards, so it's an unattributable.
I don't remember. it would make us more competitive in other grant programs. And for instance, this would be useful for scoping our projects where we're including tree trimming and stuff like that. So there's other benefits that are just beyond those grant programs too.
My comment was like, I was thinking like the return on investment for
Yes.
60,000 could almost pay for itself.
Yes.
And so why would we maybe wait till 2029
Exactly.
when that investment could be doable today with that return on investment to pay for itself
Yes,
in the near term?
I think so too. Yeah, absolutely. And we had it slotted in here.
How soon does Jason want to get on that?
Jason would like to do it right now.
I was gonna speak, so Carla has been doing some preliminary, very basic, just doing removals by year for Jason. So that's kind of the groundwork, so that's why it's marked as preliminary work complete, because Carla's kind of laying some of the GIS groundwork for an engineering firm to come in and do a professional tree inventory, to actually go out and measure these, I think there's, what's it called, DBH, which is diameter at breast height. So they measure all the trees, and it's essentially more data that's collected.
Yeah, they collect a bunch of attributes, these recommended maintenance. So actually, the company that they do up in maintenance is out in California. And they come to your city with a team of arborists, which is an important certification that's necessary to be able to actually do the inventory. I can go look and I can say that's an elm tree, but I'm not an arborist, so I'm not really able to recommend maintenance, things like that. So they would bring them all here and they would do their visual assessment of the full city in one big swoop. Jason can't do that by himself. The city's just far too big and he has other responsibilities. So this would be his full-time job for the year. And pay him his salaries. It's for him to do that, rather than this company that would come in and do it.
So it's just $60,000 to get this done?
Yeah, I think that's a fair estimate. That's probably
$625 a truck, $6. And they estimated about 10,000 trees in the city, so.
What system do they put it in?
GIS.
Like ArcGIS or something?
It's
So
a shape
then,
file.
so would that be we have a few different silos, right? So could we utilize the same program for cemetery plot inventory? Like, could we have one system that, I don't know if there's other things, Public Works pulls up different maps and stuff. I'd like to see this in one platform too. So we're not all looking at different places, different layers, obviously.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what there is for cemetery map based inventory and stuff like that, but I would imagine it could be put in the GIS. We're working on that.
we're working on the cemetery inventory too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still on the long list of things for Carla to do. Carla, yeah.
So what do we have to do to bring this forward?
Budget amendment probably.
Out of sales tax one.
On the sales tax. We could put it on the agenda for April 1st.
Is that doable?
Funds are there. It's just moving forward with it.
I think there'd be a conversation with Jason and Shane and say, hey, we'd like this to move forward, what we need to do. I think they would know better than any of us in this room as to.
Gotta
what
give us a
actually-
win. Gotta walk away with some sort
I
of.
like it. Yeah.
We'll have a conversation with Jason and Shane and see if it's even doable. I would assume these companies that swoop into town, $6 a tree, $6.25 a tree, are they available?
Right.
This
This
year to
year.
do that?
Yeah.
We'll find that information out if it is something, and maybe if we can get that information soon, we'll bring it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
We're done.
We can be, we sure can be. This, I mean, we're right here at the cost.
We can also just,
We're out of money.
if there are specific projects that we want to look up, I do have a look up here that we just, if someone's a throw out projects to have a discussion around, we can certainly do that. I don't know if
Well,
it-
what year are we out to here?
So-
I mean, are we out 5 years?
We're not at a specific year right now. We're at a specific priority level,
Okay.
which is we're right at the splitting point between high priority and medium priority.
Let's see the next one.
So this is the street relation 2B.
This is the project that got protested out, the water main replacement project in the Roosevelt Elementary area.
Yeah.
So there, as far as these folks that protest out, we repair, but we don't go curb to curb, right? They protested out, so we'll just fix the pothole basically and leave, right?
I think, yeah, we will just continue our regular maintenance of the infrastructure in the area. We have so many other needs in town.
So does, if they protest out, do they go to the end of the line then? So do we all do all these other programs downtown and then maybe in 12 to 15 years, then we'll give them another shot, or how does that work?
I'm okay with anything. Yeah, I don't want to force it on them when they just protested it out, but yeah, I would love it if they petitioned it in.
What
That would
about
be
the
great.
water main?
The water
I mean,
main.
at what point, even if it's protested out, what if the water main just needs to be replaced because
We
the maintenance,
we would probably take a similar approach as Monty Drive, the health and safety district. But we would want to be careful to stick to health and safety items. We wouldn't be serving Brian Dirk and his crew very well, probably with the issues that they have to deal with in the area. And there's quite a bit of those issues as well. It's just not going to be as comprehensive as an improvement. And this area is kind of in desperate need of a comprehensive improvement. Yeah. So
I'm just a little bit concerned, and this came up at that city commission meeting, that something that our mayor handled very well from a certain person that was at the podium. I'm concerned that some people sign these petitions because they're bullied into it. People that are distributing petitions to be signed. And I know pretty much for a fact that one guy did that.
I think options from a commission level would be, project goes to the end of the line until we start having repeated water line breaks, and then we have to go in and do something, right?
Yeah.
We can patch the street with hot mix, cold mix, and until the cows come home, but it's still gonna be, which has been done
This is the
today, if we wanted
a
to.
map, of the water main breaks in the area. Just to show that there already are several breaks in the project area.
The streets are deteriorating, obviously, to a point where they need reconstruct. If we would want to take another shot at the project and go, let's do a public information meeting and hear what everybody has to say. They all come in and make their case. Do you want this project to go forward or not? I mean, we could say then petition it in, they get more than 50% of the land area to petition the project in, and we move forward with it. That might be, then we're not spending a whole bunch more money trying to get a district going. If they petition it in, they petition it in and say it needs to be done, and therefore they're not going to. Petition would say, we want street improvement 236 to go back in, and we won't protest.
What was the cost of the project that was supposed to be
I think it's 12 million.
starting this year, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be this year's project. The $12 million project.
And the assessment was,
It's on here, it's 21,000.
Oh, 21 million.
No,
It was a $12 million.
It's
Oh,
12.
okay.
It's 21,000.
Okay, 21,000 special assessment. I know that's probably a slightly higher estimate than what we were gonna expect, but we always wanted to communicate that 20,000 number and come in at 18 or 17, 15 or whatever they actually come in at.
Is there any value in future special projects like this, that it gets communicated in a way of the health and safety portion of this is 10 million or $12,000. The street reconstruction is 10 million or $12,000. This part's gonna get done no matter what, so you're protesting this piece. Just to change that thought process that the health and safety has to get done regardless. You're really only protesting out the street. You're still gonna get this piece. Is there any validity to communicating it that way?
And is there any value in having our street guys keep the pipes that are broken? I mean, Jim, you gave me that one piece of an inch and a half pipe, and I wouldn't drink my favorite whiskey if it came to that stuff, I mean, it's terrible.
I think
So we'd have something we could physically say, here, look at this. Do you really want to drink your water out of this?
the issue, I think it's the money. We can show them the graphics and we can show them those pictures all we want. At the end of the day, it's
Still
gonna
wouldn't
be,
make a difference.
it's gonna be money. how much is this gonna cost me? So if there was an inkling to say, let's put more municipal infrastructure fund money towards this. Maybe you put $3 million towards it, you buy that special assessment down to 20,000. Where's the breaking point? Where's the point where they say, we want you to move forward or not? And it's not zero. But I don't like to even suggest that, because then we start treating different districts different on how much relief they may get.
I don't think they know that number.
And that's part of our campaign would be to make that information available and go, look, you've got a $15 million project. We've got whatever it is, X amount of outside funds that are coming in to assist. And we can take another informal run at it and say, you've had a while to digest your protested district. Let's bring them back in and, like I said, just go through things with them again and see if this really what you want to happen. And then therefore the individuals that were bullying people to sign a petition or giving false information, make sure do the best to make sure they're there too.
There was a lot of misinformation, and so we had the public forum at
Custer.
Okay, at Lewis and Clark, which was received it, everybody understood that. We had the one over here on phase 1. The sense I get was they didn't hear everything. And is it our policy to only do one public?
No, and we actually just got out of a meeting an hour ago where we talked about, Jim had specifically talked about doing an additional public meeting immediately, before we even really have a good grasp on the project.
Yeah, I think we got to start walking these projects through. Because they are so vital to the health of the community, the vibrancy of those neighborhoods and their, we have a good track record the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, we can certainly
We just
take another run, and like Jarek said, we just got out of a meeting talking about basic would be we sign a contract to start a project with an engineering firm, with a consulting engineer. At that point in time, step 1 is let's have a public information meeting on what we think the district should be, invite everybody in the district, come down, let's hear what you have to say. There's no real hard numbers put to it, but tell me about what's happening with stormwater in your neighborhood. Are you having sewer backups? Are you having water issues? Are you having these? Let us know. Then maybe we'll come back a month before the assessment district is officially created. Give them another shot. In the meantime, maybe we have communications with folks in the neighborhood. We get to a point where at least we've had at least a couple information sessions before it comes to the commission for the district, or the creation of the district. And then like I said, we do more to try and educate folks on the front end to get them on board and ensure that they're being heard, because inevitably something will come up like, oh, did you know that water inlet right there has not worked for years? You'll hear stuff like that. So I think that's important, and then they know probably a couple of years in advance the shovel around.
So I get to be your project advocate too, you could say that sensitive, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the turnaround when we had the Monty Drive public meeting up at Lewis and Clark, and there were some people that I knew voted for Bear that didn't want it, and then you guys presented it in such a fashion that it's like, I think about 2/3 of the way through or halfway through, everybody was for it. because they're involved in the decision-making process. No dip.
Yeah.
And compared with the almost nightmare of Roosevelt School, where people had already gotten all drummed up. And there was no talking about anything that night.
I think that's what we're looking at. Taking those steps to ensure that those things happen.
Okay.
How do these specials relate to like the towns? Because it was similar to building construction.
Yeah, I agree with that map shows. that we
It's
have-
higher. It's higher even relative to inflation. I want to say that that one was maybe like 15,000 once you account for inflation, but these construction prices just, in the last few years have gone.
We have a good map that tracks special assessments in certain districts, show it at the public input meetings of typical special assessments for different projects. It's that way they can see that theirs hopefully isn't completely out of line. Other projects that we did.
And it's still hard too, because we're showing realized special assessments for a lot of these past projects where we're still kind of, we're comparing that against kind of inflated proposed special assessments where we're sending people a $20,000 letter. We're expecting a $15,000 assessment, and they're seeing the $15,000 assessment from last year and saying, well, why is mine 20? So it's kind of it's a really difficult communication.
Are we getting to the point where because of the income in certain areas of the community that in order to get some of these projects done, because some parts of the community is lower income than other parts where you may have to have, not saying this is popular, but you may have to have an assessment which is part localized benefit and then the rest of it is citywide.
Yes.
I don't know if we're getting to that point because we don't have an unlimited amount of outside funding.
I think it makes sense, and in a special assessment policy that takes into account that this particular area didn't have the benefit of regular street maintenance for 40 years where everybody else in the community, if we're talking equity was something that did kind of come up in commission comments, and we didn't really know where that fit in as far as merit criteria goes. But yeah, equitable approaches to.
Yeah, I just wonder if we're getting to that point. So we don't fall so far behind on critical infrastructure that needs to be replaced or maintained.
It also leaves some of our like affordable housing stock unencumbered too, if we're, or less encumbered if we're reducing special assessments, and we can keep middle or lower housing actually affordable, because special assessments on a 15-year term, it's pretty impactful where, you know, it's not spread out over 30 years. It's, so absolutely.
Jim, you and I had that discussion that the current 15, 20-year max terms for special assessments are based on the life expectancy of those improvements. For example, chip seals.
Chip seals are 7.
Yep.
7 years, because you're probably back in 7 years doing the same thing over again. We don't like to double up on those things, or else you're in a never-ending cycle. New asphalt roadways are generally 15. Concrete, like Memorial Highway, will be 30, because that's expected life of that road.
There's the wastewater treatment plant.
Probably pretty soon.
Are you ready?
You can see it. Verify optimization. 74 here. Tweet.
And you just scroll through.
Scroll through. I want to see where it actually. It's probably not going to be. Yeah, go ahead and just sit down. There it is. A few more down.
So 19 out of 7.
So why did it drop?
Good question.
Utilization of outside funding was something that was weighted
Yeah,
pretty
okay.
heavily.
Yeah, that was an extremely important category, was utilization of outside funding. So that would be why it dropped. Yeah, we're in the final stages of the decision document kind of on this. The only piece of the puzzle that's really left to do is the funding piece. In the meantime, I think that have limitations, treatment limitations that we're pushing up against at the plant that are expected to be exceeded by 2028. And we're kind of on a, with the 2-year construction, walking that back, that's 2026. 1-year design, 15-month design, 18-month design. I can't remember exactly what the estimated is, but we're right now where we should be hearing for our expected growth and our expected flows in 2028. And that's on top of Ryan's ever-growing list of concerns out at the plant too. So
where are we at on that clarification control panel?
Yeah, so currently, today we sent over a list of quotes to the city to procure equipment. So once that's in place, next week we plan to bring in radios to get that switched over. So I'd imagine in the next couple of weeks, it would be at least the INC side of that clarifier.
INC being,
Instrument controls. Thank you. Sorry. So basically the brains of the clarifier, brains of the plant would be upgraded the next 4 to 8 weeks. I would say depends on when equipment comes.
That would include redundancy to some degree for one of the wells.
That doesn't address infrastructure. That doesn't address any of the redundancy. That's just how the plant operates.
but there is piece. I know that we had talked about redundancy with a component.
Yeah, so currently the way if the clarifier brains shut down, Ryan scram. This happened last time that happened.
This summer was the last time. It was 3 months before that. Brains just, I don't know what happens, but there's no power out there, and then the programming as it just wipes itself.
That means you gotta have at least one guy out there.
Well, if it would
Babysit
not
it.
come back, yeah, somebody would have to sit out there and make sure the pumps still run, but you have to put them in hands. So as the well fills up, somebody would have to turn the pump on and sit there.
Those wells are 20 feet deep. Up there. Just say,
That one is not 20. I don't know exactly. I have to get back in.
I'm just worried for your safety, the safety of the fellows that are out there all night long and having to manually open and shut whatever you got.
Yeah.
Yeah, the current system is very outdated. It'll get switched over to a more modern system, and we'll provide additional equipment where if it does shut down, which theoretically it shouldn't, but if it does, they'll have some extra equipment to toss in and make it operate again, whereas current system won't allow that. So yes, but it doesn't necessarily address the capacity or infrastructure issues. It's just making sure the brains still operate.
We don't know where we're getting the 119.
no. So if House Bill 1577 makes its way through unscathed right now, there would be an opportunity. I think they'll be able to have one 12.5 million dollar grant, which is a 60-40 split, which means local loons have to come up with 40%, which on 12 million, we need a roughly $20 million project. Take advantage of the $12.4 million ask. That's statewide. Now, that bill got cut from 50 million to 25 million. It's in House Senate appropriations. Can't remember which one right now. Not sure. It will probably wait until final budget numbers and they do all the crunching to see where they're at for budget, I would guess. But that's an opportunity, and doesn't mean we can't go in there and apply for less than $12.5 million, because whether we can spend that much in the next 2 years is an issue too, because we're not going to By the time we design, procure, go for all that stuff, that's a couple of year deal. So this would help us with those costs to get to that point. Then we come back in 2027 for that legislative session, ask for more funds be dedicated to this. There's, I think on the state's intended use plan, there was identified $1.4 billion of need in the wastewater treatment area in the state of North Dakota. Is that a lot of money? Absolutely. But you couple that with also the, I don't know what the number is for the state's intended use plan for the water, the drinking water side too, that and flood control and things like that. That's probably another $1 billion also. So our step in this one is if the state passes this and it gets signed, it's a good step in the direction of providing some funding for wastewater treatment plants, which right now is very slim to non-existent.
So grant availability, you get a better handle on it because you're pres of big cities, right? We can't be the only city in the state where our infrastructure is sometimes like in the near northwest section there. Some of those streets are probably laid in 80 years old.
Well, means we're not. The state has 20%. I think it's in place and Zach and Grant can step in. I think it's 20% of the oil and gas tax revenue goes into the Department of Water Resources Trust Fund, which is used to fund water projects throughout the state of North Dakota, which is our funding for the raw water intake. It's for the additional funding for the Collins Avenue Reservoir. It's the additional funding for Memorial Highway water. It's additional funding for Monty Drive. It's Lower Heart Water Resource District. It's for flood control and in essence clean drinking water. Irrigation, I think, has to be a piece of that by state law. But those monies have been rural water takes that up. Those monies have been pretty well in a pretty strict. These are for drinking water projects, not for wastewater. So where the $25 million in House Bill 1577, where that $25 million come from, don't rightfully know right now. They have to find a funding source for that. They've been made well aware of the intended use plan and the $1.4 billion worth of needs out there. Is that fair summation of that? So
You moved the ball though, right? We're going down the field now.
yeah, it
Where we weren't.
certainly would help.
Our federal delegation is aware of our needs.
But what I mean, was there really even a starting point before this session?
No.
So
Wastewater plant funding in North Dakota and whether it's a lagoon system or what has been nil, if any.
So we're moving.
So it is a step in the right direction. We'd like a bigger step, but and some of that $25 million is reserved for communities with population less than 5,000 too. So there's some rules in there that gets amended out and changed. But it's a
I think is everybody satisfied with being able to speak and content?
Yep.
you want to just show here's what all of the projects we looked at for the next 5 years, and then what kind of a summary of where all those projects fall in. If you're
Sure thing.
looking at one, I think might be a good.
Here's the here's where how the weights ended up being. So you can see utilization of outside funding was the highest with a 1.6 multiplier. And commercial industrial support. Oh, yeah. Oh no, public health and safety is the highest. Okay. And then we see the raw scores over here, and here's kind of an overview of how everything shook out math wise. We could send this PDF out, and if there's any other manual adjustments that the commission would like to make, we could certainly do that. But this is what we're planning on presenting, or something similar to this is what we're planning on presenting as a kind of final version of prioritization. And actually, what will end up happening is the draft CIP documents will have high, medium, low designations for each project. And then this maybe would be included as like an appendix or something like that, or.
When you say presenting.
Yes. To the city commission at the end of this effort. Yeah.
Okay, so the result of this then is going to be that.
The prioritization of the project.
The prioritization, okay.
When do you anticipate having the year by year breakdown with the cost per year for us to start?
I would probably attend your guys' funding meeting, and then I don't know. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to slot things in. I mean, I think that.
Because we won't be able to do the funding meeting without.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, we could revise our documents and we can get our best guess together, and then maybe that is moving things around. Yeah.
Maybe question for commission. This is where things shook out, right? Jared has them in the high, medium, low category, natural breaks in there. Do you think it's necessary to take some time, look at where things shook out? We come back again and say, all right, do you agree with this? Do you not agree with it? We've had some conversations tonight about, we can take the ones that are already contracted for, right? We don't have a lot of control over Sunset Drive interchange. We don't have a lot of control over I-94 Grant Marsh Bridge, things like that they're already in. So what we call the non-negotiables, right?
Yeah.
West end of Memorial Highway, Sunset Drive, maybe the 6th Avenue Southeast Underpass, things like that. But doesn't really matter what we do, they're still going to be there. And those negotiable ones we take a look at, and are we comfortable with where they fell in this rating system, or do we want to have more discussion about how they fell? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, other than the fact that they're the ones that are already contracted out. Well.
They're rising. They're like, I would categorize those as, here's 10 high priority projects, right? 5 of those are somewhat out of our control, right? And then here's the other 5. Do we still agree with those other 5? And then here's the medium projects and how those are ranked in there. If you want to have further discussion on that before we turn to Greg and Justin loose and say, now we need to figure out how to fund it.
I will say for those that are, go ahead.
Well, the ones that were Sunset Drive, Grant Marsh, they all come with, here's your $2 million you owe us, right? So that these things, if forced on us, it's gonna cost us.
And that's where I was gonna go. For those that are non-negotiable, give us that information right away.
Okay.
Lift those out of your presentation. Okay. So we can at least put those in as placeholders, so we know that they're not competing against those that are negotiable.
Okay, that makes sense.
Those projects are gonna take away our ability to do projects.
And that's what we need to quantify is how restricted are we going to become because of the non-negotiable projects that we're gonna have to fund.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go around the room one more time. Commissioners, you good? Engineers? Beat counters?
I'll sleep better when I know how we're paying for this.
I'm wondering how these get assigned to a year. Some of the projects are specific.
I'm gonna have to figure out a way to maybe do that. We have them slotted into a year. A lot of that has been the result of many conversations over many years, so we probably won't move them around too much, but we'll try to do that strategically as we can. Yeah.
So the top 10, the ones that are already carved in stone, basically are non-negotiable, but the ones below that are still a little should something unforeseen come up like a weather, tornado or flood or something.
Yeah. There's some top 10 negotiable ones too. Mandan proper, technically negotiable,
If we don't have anything.
Yeah. but,
So it's really.
Back to the question of to say, do we want to come back for another kind of follow-up to this meeting, and say these ones are set in stone, here's the ones you want to make sure you're all comfortable with in these years. And then, like I said, I hate to keep having special working sessions, but I think these are really good conversations to have. But to say, here's the ones that have some wiggle room, are you comfortable where we have put them and in what year? And that then turns Greg and Justin loose to try and figure out, how do we try and pay for these? As long as we've got them slated into a year, and then the ones beyond 5 years are kind of like, those are gonna be the juggling act. Is that fair? That's
okay.
And maybe
Good.
even at that point, the low priority is even start thinking potentially of, do you want that to move to year 6 through 10? You know, or it doesn't have to stay in year 5, you know, start thinking that way potentially as well, that if we need to, which one of the low priorities could get pushed past year 5?
During some of our conversations, Jared brought the point that project may be low priority because it's a maintenance project. Like I think South Side Reservoir painting would be a low priority project. However, it's very low risk and easy to implement because it's a maintenance project, right? Like we upkeep and maintain our paint on this reservoir should serve us longer than fire around, but it's probably not within 5 years. So does that move the priority? Probably not, but it's a.
But if there's a way that you could identify
Yeah.
those that could potentially
Yep.
be a
I think
6 through
so.
10 project.
Yeah, a low priority full reconstruct project. I think that obviously.
Because our CIP will graduate after this year to
Yeah.
a 10-year CIP.
Yeah, and we'll probably be dragging stuff that's currently in the six to 10. And one example would be Mandan proper phase 4, currently not in the document. Probably pull that from 6 to 10 years back into 1 to 5. Because that makes a lot of sense.
Because ideally we find funding mechanisms to do all of it, but
Right.
you know, to have that category so the commissioners can see.
Yep.
Logistically, these could be pushed past 5.
Yep, we can do our best to represent that.
Whether we need to start thinking about, like, you know, last August or September, we went from a 3-year to a 5. We need to accelerate. Just kind of thinking, do we need to go instead of waiting for the end of our 4-year term for the new guys? Do we need to do amend the 5-year to a 10-year sooner than later? Is that going to make any difference in making your job easier, but also more efficient and effective?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's inevitable. It's just when would be the appropriate time for the commission to adopt that change in the policy.
And what's going to work best for you guys?
Probably what's going to work best is to get us through this 5-year process to kind of put a bow on it as we kind of march into the 2026 budget. And then I think once we feel like that we have our 5-year CIP pretty well laid out, kind of know where we're going, then at that point, take that next leap in the policy. You know, whether it's late spring, early summer timeframe to make that policy change. So we have that approval already, because before you know it, the 2026 budget is going to be done. And now we're going to be on another planning horizon again. And at that point, we're going to be looking at 10 years. So at what point do we make that policy switch? Do we do it, you know, once we know that we have the 2026 budget pretty well in hand, wrapped up, it's just going through the process of adoption. Maybe at that point, we put something on the agenda, you know, regarding amending that policy to go from 5 years to 10. So that piece is already in place once we get past the 2026 budget.
I would agree with that. We adopt the 5-year plan, adopt the final 26 budget, and then next fall we address amending to a 10-year.
Yeah, because we're gonna have the planning process in the fall, thinking about that 10-year horizon and start working those infrastructure projects, personnel, equipment. We're gonna have to lay all of that out, and it's gonna take a little bit of time. But we'll have something already built. We're gonna learn from what worked well, what didn't work well through this process for 5 years. But we know we're gonna have to be looking well beyond 5. And that next step is 10 years.
It would probably be October, November when realistically we'll be coming to ask to amend the policy.
We know it's gonna be this year.
But we had a deal in both law enforcement and police that, train like we fight, we train, and if we're proactive, that's gonna minimize injury. Yeah. Further, we do that in the office setting as well. Because here, not everybody will be on the same page. And things will be a little bit more, I think of the word now, but we could educate the public
Right.
in a proactive way, so that stuff's not gonna to them feel like it's gem, it's a bunch of sawdust crap.
And I think that's been some of the past discussion is how much public input. And once we get through this process, should there be public input to it? Does that make any difference? I don't know.
No, we're trying to do that with our commission meetings now, right? Because, sometimes I ask some really foundation, stupid questions. But some of the people out in the world, they never heard that before. And I don't know if that's working and helping Jim or Andrew or Chief Ziegler feel less, got another word for it, but less telephone calls to you on Monday mornings.
No, I think it's important, and engineering is taking forward and with the glossary of trying to define their terms, and we do the same thing. We take it for granted at the commission that everybody knows what we're talking about when they're at home, but they don't. So you have to slow it all down. Be very deliberate, and that's good.
Our plan is to put our 5-year plans, our CIPs, out on the city website for the public to see.
Cool.
So we're transparent.
Okay, we are approaching 7:30, and I think
Couple of announcements. I think Commissioner Heinchan will be absent next Tuesday. Out of town, out of the state, out of this world. If we setting kind of the agenda for April 8th, which will be the following Tuesday, I think if you guys are all good, we'll come back and say, okay, here's the top 10, these are set or whatever they are. Now let's talk about those next level projects and are we okay with how those rank? So for the next 5 years, we have an idea for finance to start looking at that. Is that a fair?
Yep.
Fair deal? Okay, that's what we'll do.
okay with that. Future meeting dates are Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 at 5:30. That is a regular city commission meeting. At 7 o'clock, there's a board of equalization meeting. Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 at 5:30 will be this special work session. Budget. Tuesday, April 15th, 2025 will be the second city commission meeting of April at 5:30, and then we don't have any other special meetings scheduled.
We'll talk with finance about April 22nd. If we get a good handle on things on April 8th, we'll do the regular meeting April 15th, and then if we'll talk with Greg and Justin about, right, you want to come back and tell us how we pay for all this stuff.
We'll need one for personnel and machinery and equipment before that.
We'll
prior to
It's a little negotiable on the 22nd round, we get all that, but we'll do our best to.
So the focus on the special meeting on the 8th is gonna be just a recap, follow-up of this discussion on the
Yep.
infrastructure.
Phase 2.
Okay, got it.
That's,
Phase 3 optimization.
no, we're not. It's not going to phase 95. We're getting plant optimization, so.
And the last meeting is Tuesday, May 6th, at 5:30. That's a city commission meeting. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
for participating.
I'm gonna hit this stuff.
Very good discussion.
Yes. Yes.